Good evening, virtual world.
Hey,
We are so happy to be here with you again this evening. Tonight is the second art salon in what we are now calling the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts Main Stage Salon Series. And last night we had our debut series. We had Broadway great, Mr. Patrick Page, as our guest. And this evening we have the other end of the spectrum of that Broadway journey, Broadway newcomer. And before we get started, I just want to welcome every single person that's out in our audience this evening. If you're an arts teacher, drama teacher, dance teacher, art teacher, music teacher, welcome this evening. If you're an arts student or an arts enthusiast or an arts parent, we want to also welcome you this evening. I think tonight you're in for a treat. You're in for a great conversation. You're in for some illumination and inspiration, is the way I'd like to phrase it. We could not be more proud of tonight's guest because tonight's guest is somebody who was in a lot of our students' same place not too long ago. He graduated with the class of 2014. This young man has gone on to achieve some amazing things already early in his career. I feel like a second dad to him in some ways, so it really warms my heart to introduce to our community this evening um, one actor who I believe one day we will be calling one of the greats, Mr. Carson McCalley. Carson, welcome.
wow, that is I'm truly honored. Yeah, and I'm just so excited to be here. Yeah.
So if folks don't know, one of the reasons why Carson sort of sprang to the top of our list of folks that we wanted to interview was because at his young age he just made his Broadway debut, and he made his Broadway debut in a show called The Inheritance, a non-musical, which is not necessarily part of the norm for Broadway, especially in today's world. It's not the norm, and yet today received 11 Tony nominations. And Carson, I just want to start with that, man. You've got to be absolutely thrilled with coming off the Great White Way and knowing that your show has garnered 11 nominations. What does that feel like, man?
I mean, it feels crazy and amazing, and I think doubly so because it's just been so long since we've been sort of sitting in. I've got to process sort of through Broadway closing down and having this time to process the show. The Tonys were supposed to happen in June, and so nominations would have come out sort of while we were still in the thick of it. And I think it's such a beautiful moment to be able to sit with it for a while and then sort of 7 months later like commune with these people and honor the ensemble that we had. And I'm so grateful to not only be able to have the company be nominated in that way, but also be able to use that as a conduit to talk to and remember the times with this company that I've been doing all day, which has been so awesome.
And Carson, before we move on, I want to bring something up. A lot of folks, they as actors, as artists, we worry about getting cast, but we don't just worry about getting cast. Sometimes we get worried about what part we're going to get. And right, I remember you back at SCPA. You didn't have a lot of leading roles. You had a lot of smaller parts,
It's
and
true. Yeah.
you excelled at those smaller parts.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you now, looking at the inheritance? Because your part was not necessarily a large one, but was absolutely critical to the telling of the story. What can you share about that with our with some of our kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got a really beautiful and sort of unique opportunity with the inheritance in that we were all sitting on the stage almost the entire time, which was 7 hours. It was 6 acts over two plays, two parts, and we were sitting there and sort of telling the story as a community. And so even though, you know, my character of young Henry, he didn't even really come in the full way until part 2, which is sort of a second play. I got to sit there for the first 3.5 hours and just feel as if we are all part of this communal storytelling. And I think that is, I got to physicalize a feeling that I feel like you need to bring into any process. Because we were essential. We were very essential. You know, even the people who had huge roles in part 1 or huge roles the entire time, you know, they were also called in the script. We're called young men 1 through 10, and so even Eric Glass, who is one of the main characters of the piece, he's also young man 10. You know, where I was young man 3, and so it tethered us in a way to where it was like no one is actually really more important than the other, and we're all sort of this amoeba telling this story together. So The Inheritance, I think, let me do that in a really beautiful way. But I think that's sort of a space you need to bring into every process, you know?
That's brilliant, man. So every actor on the stage is important.
Yeah.
You know, every character on that in a play or in a musical, they're significant. Doesn't matter the size of the part.
Right.
Hey, listen, man, I want to start back to your roots. You grew up here in San Diego,
Yeah.
and many of our kids are growing up here in San Diego, and they wonder, can I make it? Is there something going on? Is there enough going on? Right? What was it like for you as a young person growing up in San Diego, knowing full well that this was going to be a part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a sort of a better place to be because of the ways that it's connected to so many different sort of markets in this industry. The proximity to sort of the film industry in California is really awesome, but also San Diego rooted in like the Old Globe and La Jolla Playhouse and these incredible houses that, you know, through SCPA, I got to have an experience working at the Globe for a time, and that meant something. When I ended up coming to New York, that still means something. People still ask me about that experience, and yeah, San Diego, I think, plays a bigger role than I think we realize in our while we're in it. You know, that the theater scene is always pulling from New York, and there's a connection there that is so tangible, and not only physically is that helpful sometimes, you know, like when on a resume or, you know, being able to talk about those things, even just knowing who works at the Globe, you know, or things that have transferred from La Jolla Playhouse and stuff like that. Those are conversations you have with other people in the industry, and which is helpful. And those are physical ways that it helps, but also just emotionally in the way that it encourages this sort of artistic space. You know, I remember when I was feeling sort of uninspired, I would go to Balboa Park. You know, I would go to sort of artistic spaces, which I think that San Diego provides a lot of, which is cool.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. We have the Old Globe, we have La Jolla Playhouse, but then we also have something like 62 identified theater companies within the city of San
Crazy.
Diego. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And so many people on so many different levels doing great work. But pointing out the Old Globe and pointing out La Jolla Playhouse, you've got incubators for Broadway. Shows that literally start in San Diego in those houses and then move to New York. The connections are so deep. Let me move on to another question, because I know this from a personal standpoint, and I adore them dearly. Your parents played a huge part in your life. And what did that mean to you as a young artist?
Yeah, I mean, I could not be more grateful for the ways they supported me, and I think that such a difficult thing, you know. It's you know, every child is different, and sort of every person is different, right? And that's what's so difficult about parenting. And parenting an artist is it's difficult because you have to have a lot of trust in them, which I think that my parents instilled in me really young. They supported me whenever I needed them to. You know, please drive me to this audition. They did, and they supported me in that way, and I could not be more grateful. But they also gave me a lot of space to sort of develop myself as an artist. I think it's a weird comparison, but I feel like I like to think of everyone's relationship to art is like their relationship to religion. And I think that as what we all want from each other, parents, children, friends, we all want each other to develop beautiful and personal relationships to all the things that we are passionate about in our lives. And I think that when you micromanage those relationships, it only has negative effects. And so I am so grateful to my parents who sort of gave me the space to and the trust to develop myself while still 100% supporting everything that I said I loved and wanted to do. Yeah, and never positioning themselves like they knew better than I did, because you know, age is will give you a different perspective, and obviously you care about your children and you want them to be successful and happy and stuff like that. But a lot of the times, you know, for me, I knew my relationship to art and what I wanted for my career, and they never positioned themselves like they knew better or they knew what was viable or what wasn't viable. They let me tell them what I thought was viable for me, which is so beautiful.
They listened.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I think is absolutely critical. You know, I think it's absolutely critical. I think that's why we're in education. Those of us that are, we believe in young people, and we believe in their journeys,
Yeah.
and want them to experience what those journeys are.
Yeah.
You know, did you know that you wanted to go to SDSCPA? Because you were one of those guys that, you know, you showed up and you just sort of immediately blended in, but also stuck out, like so many of our kids do.
Mm.
They come in and they become part of the fold, but then they also have that talent and that drive and that passion and that work ethic. And I often wonder, was SCPA your target? Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it felt like not even an option really for me, in a beautiful way. Like, oh my God, there's a school that I can do something that I love to do in sort of an environment that feels really kind and really sort of like weird and beautiful. And so, yeah, so I sort of always had my, from the time I was in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown in elementary school, I sort of said, great, I'm going to go to an arts focused middle and high school. And then I did. And it was just it was the exact sort of environment that I was looking for. Yeah.
And that's awesome because you knew that you were going to have to make a little bit of a sacrifice because SCPA wasn't necessarily close to your home.
Right.
But you knew that that was the education that you wanted, and you knew that it was the school that you wanted. Is that what I'm also understanding?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It yeah, it just gave me all of the tools, and again all the tools to do what I needed to do to foster my art, but also taught me how to develop my own tools. And I recognized that even when I was in 5th grade, to be like, great, this school is only going to build me up in sort of every aspect.
That's awesome because that's the next question that I wanted to ask you is, you know, in your years that you were at SCPA, what was that? What did that journey feel like while you were there? I mean, I was very close to the class of 2014. My daughter graduated with you,
Mm-hmm.
and so many of that particular class and the classes before and after have gone on to do some amazing things.
Yeah.
What is it about? What is it about being at SCPA that you felt it just gave you that that energy or that help, the drive or the knowledge, the content knowledge, those kinds of things?
Yeah, like again, it's exactly what sort of as far as the structure of the curriculum, it sort of gave me the tools and also taught me how to receive those tools and make it my own. But then also on the other end, which I think is sort of equally as important, I think the social aspect and not feeling afraid to take risks or be crazy or weird, or um, having this sort of environment of people around me who encouraged diving deeper into art and trying things, I think was so crucial to my experience there. Um, so yeah, both the environment and I think the curriculum worked hand in hand in again helping me develop and making it cool to develop. Because so much of when you're like in school, you're like, oh, you're still figuring yourself out, and you're, what do I like, and making it really attractive and cool to be able to find out who you are through a really creative outlet is so beautiful and awesome, and that's what it gave me.
That is awesome to hear, man. I love hearing that because it validates all of our educators on our campus. They work so hard, they toil so hard, and they're hoping that
Totally.
they are delivering exactly what the student experience wants to be and needs to be.
Right.
But let me give you this other perspective. I mean, SCPA is such a unique place, and we couldn't be who we are, obviously, without our arts teachers, but we really couldn't be who we are without our academic teachers. Carson, talk a little bit about how your academic teachers had an influence on you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to, there's a couple teachers who stand out in my brain as well. And at the time, I had Farson, who now is the principal, as my English teacher. And
Right.
uh you know there were so many different teachers who I looked to in my sort of academic um arc at SCPA, that were able to speak to you in the way that you will be able to resonate with because you are an artist, which I thought was just so incredible. I took art history, but I also took regular history with Miss Meyer Ward, and I remember the way that she would position history or the things that we're learning about and feed it through the lens that we understood best, which is being creative, was just incredible, and taught us to learn better, like um, than I think I would have um, at another school, because I was learning all of the same information. I think in a way that suited me, um, because people understood who I was, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so
And I think I often we hear the stories of sometimes the challenges of a dual curriculum, that you've got all of your arts classes that you have to take as well as your academics. But I want to ask you, how did that help prepare you for the things that you would encounter after high school? I'm going to talk about Carnegie Mellon in just a second, but I want to talk in general. How did SCPA help prepare you?
um, yeah, I mean, in a similar way, like seeing how the teachers had to um, or the academic teachers were able to teach us better through listening to us and knowing how the students at SCPA are different from students at another school, taught me how to understand how I learn best. And again, like going into academic courses in the future, um, at Carnegie, and also, just in my life, learning things in my life, knowing how that seeps into my bones, um, for me, how it best, works for me, I think was something that that gave me. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, man.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think SCPA changes lives. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now talk to us about one of the top institutions in the country, one of the institutions that so many students would love to attend, the great Carnegie Mellon. Talk to us a little bit about what was that like?
I mean, it was amazing. I think that it's really difficult because you can't. I truly believe, like everyone says this, and you can't understand it until you sort of go through a college or a conservatory program. But I do believe that there is a program out there for each specific person, and I think
Absolutely.
for me, CMU was that program and really worked for me. It was very rigorous, and a lot of conservatory programs are, and you sort of have to be ready for that. But I think that that's what I was ready for, and yeah, I think that Pittsburgh too felt like weirdly not as much of a connection as the sort of like the theater community in San Diego, but it felt similar to San Diego in the fact that finding a city that was large enough to where it felt like there was always stuff to do, and there are amazing regional theaters in Pittsburgh as well, but small enough to feel like I wasn't swallowed by the city, and that it sort of was my college town. Was an amazing experience and an amazing place to sort of develop my craft.
We were there recently in Pittsburgh,
Really,
and my first time there. And what an amazing city.
it's an
Uh,
amazing city. Yeah,
it's such an amazing city and such a college town. My gosh, you've got Point Park there, right? You've got
yeah,
University of Pittsburgh, you've got Carnegie Mellon, you've got Duquesne, you've got all these
yeah.
universities within a short distance of each other. Do you guys mix it all? Do you guys talk with each other? Do you get to know students from the other schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult, I think, particularly when you're in a conservatory program because, it's so ensemble based and it's so like we are with sort of our unit and we're moving together as a family. And so it proves to be difficult. But I definitely, literally downstairs, this isn't from another school, but it's from another program in Carnegie. My friend Lena lives downstairs in this building in New York City from me, and she was an industrial designer at Carnegie, and yeah, I have lots of friends who are from sort of different experiences because we're sort of around different students that are passionate about different things. Um, yeah, I think that CMU is a little interesting because it's sort of on this weird little hill, and so you sort of have to go down the hill to like intermingle with the other colleges, which are really sort of tight together in Oakland and in like downtown Pittsburgh. Um, but
Are you
yeah, I
saying
mean, I
that
even
are you saying that you have to descend among the plebeians? Is that what you're trying to
no,
say,
no, no, no.
Carson?
But it's a trip. And yeah, I
Sure.
remember I was at CMU when Kimmy Parker from
Yeah.
2015, 16 at SCPA.
Went to Point
She,
Park.
she went to Point Park, and I, I remember one time I was in the lobby. We had talked about, oh my God, you're coming to Pittsburgh, and I saw her a couple times, even though she went, to school in downtown, and I was sort of up on the hill. I was in the lobby of CMU once, and she was seeing a show there, and I came down to Point Park once and saw a show there. So it was like there's definitely intermingling.
So, we talk a lot about conservatory life. And I think that one of the things that becomes a little, now, I don't want to say complicated, but there is, in trying to describe the difference between conservatory life, conservatories are standalone in most cases, like the Juilliard School, Cal Arts, Cornish College of the Arts. But conservatory education exists within the universities also, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's exactly the kind of conservatory life that you had at
Yeah.
Carnegie Mellon. Can you talk a little bit about what that conservatory life feels like at that college level? What does it feel like as a student in terms of what your day looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it is really intense, and it's long. But I think that is what SCPA prepared me for. I think that we realize, I had gone into Mr. Maddie's class too, and talked about this to some students, is that like going to a conservatory program or going to any sort of arts program after SCPA, um, you're always scared. You think that you're this like little fish that's going into this new experience, and you are going into a new experience, but you think everyone's going to be so much more prepared than me, and I don't know who these people are and how good they are, and I'm just scared. But I think you realize that most people don't get the opportunity to have the high school education, both creatively and academically, that people at SCPA do, and so you are more prepared than a lot of other students out there, and that really gave me a lot of ease when I went to a conservatory program, because you do hear a lot that it is intense, and it is rigorous, and it long hours, and that is all true. But I also think that you can't let that scare you, because if you are ready, and if you do your work at a program like SCPA. But besides that, um, yeah, it was, we sort of, on one day we would have like a 3.5 hour acting class, and then we would have sort of rehearsals and shows if we were in those at the time. Then that would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, we had sort of a trifecta situation, which is voice, speech, and movement. And we would sort of, your ensemble would be split into three. And so it would be classes of about like 8. And you would sort of move in that triangle together. So everybody's having voice, speech, and movement sort of on the same days. Yeah. And those are sort of our core classes. And then sort of you got your specific tangents or your specific shootouts, depending on the year that you're in. So freshman year, you start really contemporary, and then you sort of get more classical as you go through the years, sort of ending in junior year, where you do a lot of Shakespeare and a lot of Greeks and stuff like that. And then senior year is sort of all film acting, which is getting you ready for like self-tapes and stuff like that, showcase and things. That's pretty much our trajectory in a nutshell. But
So you pretty much, you eat, breathe, drink, live, sleep the entire program.
yes, yeah, but it is, and then when you have downtime too, it's that you have to be rehearsing for these things and stuff like that. I think a beautiful thing that CMU does, and I think a lot of schools do this, but the building is ours. We can go into the building at any time, sign out rooms at any time. It is, I think, an important transition into sort of your the responsibility of being like an adult actor, and understanding sort of like the responsibility that holds of being like, I need to be in the studio, I need to sign out the studio from this time to this time, and there's nobody sort of holding my hand and being like, you have to do this, or sort of watching over me to make sure I do it either. I need to do what I need to do to get my work done.
You're taking me back, dude. You're taking me back, because one of the things that I love about schools, especially, art schools, is that the studios can be open pretty much all night.
Yeah.
And if you're having a tough time being away from family, being away from your friends, you can work it out through your craft in a studio. Go in and just start working on the next day's work. Go look at the monologues. Go look at your scene study. Go look at all of the things that you need. Spend that alone time in a studio and just work it out. Did you ever feel like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because like really what, it's hard because, they always say don't bring there's stuff that you shouldn't bring into the room. And working on stuff through a lens of trying to fix your daily life is sometimes hard, but you always are going to be using aspects of yourself, and it's one of the most beautiful things about acting, but that when you're working on your craft, you're working on yourself, and you're working on letting people see layers of yourself that you don't normally let people see. Or sort of Declan Donnellan in The Actor and the Target sort of puts it the best way, and that it's the best actor is just sort of the unpeeled actor that just sort of like lets it, instead of having to put all this stuff on. So I definitely felt at times when I needed to peel away some of the stuff, and sort of just do some inner thought, and I can do that at any time in a studio, which is cool.
That's awesome, dude. That is so awesome. I think that that's one of the things that you know, at SCPA, I want us to continue having more dialogue about, because young people are going through so many different things. But the arts gives us that out, doesn't it? I mean, it gives us that opportunity to work out so many things that are going on in our personal lives. We can pour through the craft.
Totally.
Hey, so, you know, man, take us on this journey. So this guy, Carson McCalley, you graduate from Carnegie Mellon, you head to New York City, and now you're looking at this whole world that's in front of you. And this opportunity, a door opens. And let's say that door is the inheritance.
Let's say
What,
yes.
what? Take us through that journey, Carson, about from the very, very beginning of it, all the way through it. What was that like, man?
Yeah, I mean, it was magic. You know, it was magic, and what was really beautiful about it is that, like, when they say, which is a hard phrase because you can't expect anything from this industry, and you can't feel like you are owed anything from this industry. But they also say that when opportunities that are for you will not pass you, and it took me a couple of the auditions, because you sort of are still in your head, and you're sort of starting to you're still piecing things together when you go into like initial auditions. But I went in at the beginning of June, and then I got called back, and I came back, and then I got called back again, and I came back. And sort of at that third callback is when I realized, yeah, like this is so, I need to realize what I authentically and uniquely bring to this table. And I do know that I bring something to this table. And that is so important to realize. I think especially for students who are going to audition for colleges and stuff like that, is that you are providing them a service as well. By showing yourself, by showing your art, you're doing their job for them. You are bringing the magic that they need for the project. And obviously you again don't want that to become, oh, I'm definitely going to get this, or they need to cast me in this. But I do remember a specific moment when I came in and I said, no, I absolutely know what I bring to this project. And I do think it is really special, and I think it could be a really beautiful part of this piece. And I think that energy was really helpful in getting it. And we did, I think it was pretty much once a week all of June. And so that last week of June, we had our final callbacks. I believe it was the fourth callback, and it was in groups, which again is really unique, and nobody else really gets to. A lot of other shows don't get to do that, but they brought us in because the show is sort of devised with this ensemble of 10 men. They brought us in groups of 10. They did 2 groups of 10 and spent 4 hours with us devising in the room. And that is a day I will never forget for the rest of my life. I just thought it was the pinnacle of sort of what I was in this for. So not only was I receiving so much from them, I was so grateful that they were giving me this time and this opportunity to play with other people. But again, it reinforced that I was a crucial part of the room. And yeah, I just remember too, we the 10 of us, we devised and sort of did this thing together with the script as it was at the time, and then they brought in 10 other people, and they had me and my friend Arturo, who played Jason number 2 in the play Stay, with the other group of people. And so I saw everybody that they sort of were considering, which was also a really beautiful experience for me, because it brought me so much solace on the other side of it once I saw the company that they cast. Because, and don't get me wrong, every single person who came into that audition room was incredible. They were kind and giving and wonderful, and incredibly talented. But knowing the 10 people that they cast when the cast list came out, which was a secret for a while too, I looked at that list and I said, if I wrote down the 10 people who I felt were bringing their true, beautiful, authentic, rough, raw self to this process, those are the 10 people who are cast in this play. And that was so refreshing for me. And it brought me so much joy to be like, oh yeah, I know that DJ brought in such an incredible spirit to the room that we were devising in. And yeah, that was sort of my experience. And then we had to keep it secret for a long time, because they that was only sort of the new cast of men, and they were still casting Lois Smith, who was just nominated today for a Tony, and which is the one woman in the show that comes in act 6 of the show, which is like 6.5 hours into the show. And so we had to sort of keep it secret until they had that set. And so we were doing, we shot for Vogue. We did all these things in secret that we couldn't tell anyone, which was really fun in its own way. And sort of feeling like that we had this secret family together even before the process began. And then about a week into rehearsal, sort of the final cast list got announced, or the public cast list got announced. Sorry, that was only auditions. Then we did the show and it was great.
You know what I love though, man? What I love that you're talking about is, how do you explain it? It's one of these things I say recently at SCPA, if you haven't seen it, you don't know what it is. Right?
Yeah.
And if you have never been in the room at that highest level, you don't know what that looks like.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're reminding me, because even Mr. Page referred to it last night. When you step in the room, and we all refer to it as the room.
Yeah.
When you step in the room, you've got to be ready to deliver. You've got to be open. You got to be humble. You got to be kind. You have to be collaborative. You have to listen. You have to be ready to learn. Right in that moment. It's just because that's the only way you're going to grow.
And again, which again is such a hard balance, because you have to combine all of those things with having the confidence to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, and you may be prepared, but if you don't believe you're prepared, it's those things are going to be at war with each other. You need to know what you're bringing, and know that you are enough, and that your preparation, as long as you've done it, is worth something, because you are, and that's just such a hard balance to bring into the room, but such an electric balance to bring into the room is being kind and generous and giving and prepared, and having the confidence to know that all of those things are true,
Wow. That's a great statement, my friend. That's a great statement. Listen, some of the kids have some questions. And I want to go to one that kind of keeps coming up a little bit over and over here, and I want you to take it in as somebody who's in your place now, and give these students some really keen reflection, because some of these questions, are, in a lot of ways, I want the answer. give me the answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but sometimes the answer is still part of that search, still part of that growth process, right? So
Absolutely.
one of the things is kids are always asking, where do I find casting calls, right? Do do I find where do those exist? Where can I look?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just is so different for everybody. I think that, it depends on the space that you're in too. It's like in San Diego, that is different from in New York and LA. And uh, I think that, it's just it's a hard question to answer, because there are so many different routes. I was walking into open calls that I just had heard were happening from a friend, and I wouldn't be bad to not have my ear to the ground in that way. It's like, you can't be everywhere at once. You can't go to all the auditions. You can't do all that. What you can do is develop what you want to do and actively seek out those things, And yeah, I think it does help. Yes, sure, having an agent helps, and there are 7,000 routes to do that as well. Everybody does or does not have representation. Um, for different reasons. And I think that if you are confident in knowing what you want, like I've reached out to specific theaters, like the Woolly Mammoth in DC is one. If anyone's from the Woolly Mammoth on this call me. It's like I love the stuff that the Woolly Mammoth puts out, and I am confident enough to message them and say, hey, listen, any audition that I could have for the Woolly Mammoth, I do have representation, and I sought that out on my own because it's something that I want, I'm passionate about. Um, so yeah, it's difficult, and I'm sorry I can't answer that question better. There are 7,000 different ways to find casting calls. I think that you will find the casting calls that are right for you if you seek out the things that you're passionate about.
That's a great answer, man,
Does
because
that make sense?
if you're part of the union, you're going to go to Actors Equity to check on what the regional calls look like, right?
Right.
If you're local, there's casting hotlines, there's ads in papers. You can go check websites of individual theaters, and you can see who's casting and what they're doing. But you have to be proactive, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You do have to sort of put in that work, and know what you want, because you just sitting and saying, I want all of the casting notices. Um, I think that you will get less actual information or less projects that you actually want to work on, rather than focusing on something really specific that you want and work towards that goal. If what you want is representation, you know, focus on that and work towards that. If what you want is to work in Chicago, talk to people who you know in Chicago, reach out to them, start researching those spaces. What are those spaces like? Yeah, yeah.
Good. And Kayla, I love your questions. Kayla has a question, so specifically, how did the casting for Inheritance come about? How did you learn about that?
Yeah, I got that casting through my manager, which I got. Sorry, this is so cool that this little bubble pops up with the words on it. Yeah, so I got that audition through my manager, which I got from Showcase from Carnegie Mellon from SCPA. So that is sort of the trajectory of that. Yeah, I'm actually no longer even with those managers. So it's it's interesting in that, which who I still love to death. I mean, I've loved them a lot. I think that this pandemic had some time where I said I feel like I just need to stick with my agent for now and not be represented with a manager. And that was, again, you're making all these decisions personally depending on what you sort of feel. But you know, your question is, how do you wish to continue finding them? It's that sometimes you have to, even the people who seek out opportunities for you that you really do enjoy, like my managers who got me the inheritance, you're always reassessing, what am I now interested in doing, and how am I going to continue from here? And, you know, like, Jordan Thaler, who cast Inheritance, who cast The Public in New York, now I have a beautiful sort of personal relationship with him, and he knows who I am. He knows my work. So I believe that he will call me in regardless of representation if he is casting a project that he feels I'm right for, you know. And that's how you start making those connections that are rooted in your work, you know. Like, I think some of my favorite people who are just these incredible passionate go-getters have, you know, I think we all have to create our own work sometimes, and should be creating our own work all the time in order to sort of keep on refining what that work means. And a lot of times my friends will invite casting directors, people who could get them jobs to their work, you know, instead of saying, you know, listen, how can I serve you? You say, listen, I'm doing my own thing. Come and see what I can offer you.
Right.
Which is a cool route as well.
You know, you mentioned something that I think, again, you know, because we're a secondary school, we don't really talk about what happens at the post-secondary level. But the fact that during your showcase, because showcase has to happen for all conservatory students, right?
Yeah.
What is showcase, Carson, for a young person who's listening right now and doesn't know what that is?
Yeah, for me, and again, it's there's so many different routes. For me, showcase was I felt a really important part of my conservatory training, and it is really stressful because you're suddenly having to decide how to represent yourself really quickly. Showcase is basically a show where we at Carnegie, we go to New York and LA, and the class does scenes. Each person does two things, whether that is a scene, two scenes, a scene in a monologue, a scene in a song, two pieces that sort of represent you, and agents and managers and people who have those connections do the work for you. You know, like my faculty at Carnegie does the work at getting agents and managers and casting directors to those shows, so that all I need to worry about is doing my work as best as I can. And then from there, you are contacted by representation, and then you go from there. You say, I do or do not want to work with some of this representation, or, you know, Jordan Thaler came to my showcase. He had said that, but he's a casting director. He didn't contact me immediately. A year and a half after showcase, I suddenly am walking into Jordan Thaler's room and auditioning for the Inheritance for him. So also things like that don't immediately. Sometimes you seek this sort of immediate gratification of, oh my God, like I need representation now, or I need someone to validate that I'm putting out good work or that they like my work. But sometimes that will pay off in the long run, and all you need to focus on is doing the best work you can all the time and sharing that with people you think might like it or might help you share it with more people. Showcase is one of those ways to do that.
You know, and just to clarify for those that were listening to that incredible story, showcase is built into your senior year when you're in a conservatory, right? It's built in. It's part of your experience. You're gonna step in front of casting people, film and television, and live theater. So, what an incredible thing when you know that that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, Kate, not Kayla, Isamu has a really beautiful question here. What do you do when you get a role or a monologue or a scene that you don't relate to or don't see yourself resonate with you? What do you do?
Yeah, yeah. I think, changing my when I studied in London, which I did through Carnegie, I did a semester abroad at Lambda in London, and I learned a lot of the British way of thinking of acting. And again, Declan Donnellan's The Actor and the Target, I think, is an essential book for acting, as well as Peter Brook's The Empty Space. And I
Yes.
think those books, they emphasize that sort of, they say like you are a drop in the universe, but the universe in a drop. And I think that it is so important to realize that like we have so many different parts of ourselves, and um, instead of trying to sort of put on or being afraid to be like, oh no, but I'm not this mean, or like how do I become a mean person, peeling away peeling a part of yourself away, and being sort of vulnerable enough to find how you resonate with somebody that you don't think you resonate with, is really difficult and something I struggle with all the time, and is really brave. But I think that is the way that I approach that. Is you know I think it's the way I look, but I go out for a lot of really mean boys. I go for a lot of really mean people, and I don't feel like I'm really mean, um, but
They're just
but
fun to play.
yeah, but I have to sort of peel away the parts of me and being like, okay, Carson, you have to stop. Um, you have to get rid of your perception of yourself and instead realize what parts of you do get angry. What parts of you feel like they when have you hurt somebody, and how did that happen? Like what happened in your body, um to where something you said hurt somebody. And I think realizing that we do have so many different parts of ourselves that we don't even realize are parts of ourselves is an important process in doing that. I think that when a role is asked of you that you are not comfortable with, or something that you just don't resonate with, it is totally okay to step away from that. I actually got an audition a couple weeks ago that I did turn down. I said, I just don't even think that being on set in this role, or this type of person, I wouldn't enjoy. Not even, it wasn't about the role itself. It was really about the full project. But I just said, and that's okay to have sort of the artistic backbone to say, this is not a project that sort of aligns with how I sort of want to use my art to change the world or something like that. That's okay to step away from. But a lot of the times, trying to find out how you relate to them, I think you will find a way.
That's awesome. Every kid, especially you remember the days at SCPA when we would have the auditions and then the cast list would get posted.
Mm-hmm.
And there were those who felt rejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or felt like they were told no. How do you deal with losing a role, and especially losing a role to someone you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is a very long process in separating, because so much of your work is bringing yourself and being vulnerable. It's a long process, and something that I think we will struggle with all of our lives is sort of how to separate ourselves from that. But I do think it gets easier to separate yourself from that, and saying, this is not a personal attack on me, and it really has nothing to do with me. It's like, I as long as I believe in myself to the extent to say, oh, well, I do believe I could do that role. But if they don't, that's not even somebody I want to work. Like, that's not, no. If you're still casted in the play another role, um, you can't just be like, this is somebody I don't want to work with, obviously. But I think that yeah, you get used to that sort of objective eye. That like a director, so many of the things that like we did in the Inheritance too, that was devised, like we got used to them saying, no, that didn't work. And you say, yep, that didn't work. Okay, I felt like it worked, but you're the objective eye. And if you are saying it's not working, I don't want to get out there and do something that the objective eye, the audience, which is what the thing is a relationship between the actors and the audience. If the audience says it doesn't work, that's only reflecting badly on me, you know? So you sort of have to trust that and say, great, it's not really about me, and we move on. And I find the ways that I can be passionate about what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah. So, if you don't get a role, does it mean you're no good?
Of course not. Of course not.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Fetters just wanted to say hello to you.
Wow.
Don't
What?
you love her? Don't you love her? And she also said, "Oh, hey, by the way, the directors would run and hide after the cast lists were posted."
Oh, wow. Oh, Miss Fetters. Oh, wow.
I think what you're validating too, and even Fetters is validating here, is that the getting cast or not getting cast is part of the process, right? I mean, it's just part of what we go through.
100%. Yeah. And again, like the phrase of like, nothing that is really for you will pass you. Um, Removing yourself from that and saying, well, then it wasn't for me, you know, like if something that I can really bring my authentic, unique, beautiful spirit to. Something that I think Fetters taught me in a really amazing way. I mean, she brings her authentic, beautiful spirit to like her class and her art, and I think that yeah, falling back on that and saying when there's a project that will allow me to do that, then I will do that as best as I can, and that is the only way I'm going to have a positive experience. You know, that's beautiful, a beautiful opportunity to be able to wait for that experience. You know.
Absolutely. Hey, Carson, we are. Well, oh, by the way, Mr. Farson
Mr.
is
Farson.
reaching out to you as well. Hello, Mr. Farson. I got to tell you, man, him being our principal has been such a joy.
Yeah,
He is such an incredible instructional leader, such a person who believes in loving and lifting every student, every faculty member, staff member.
yeah.
Um,
I still go by. There was something written on your wall, Mr. Farson, in 10th grade, that I think we had to talk about, and we were like, "Does this mean anything?" I don't know. It was like a philosophy conversation. But written on the wall was "Plant impossible gardens," and I still think about that phrase to this day. And I try to sort of put it into um, what I do. So thank you.
that is awesome, dude. Hey, listen, we're right near the end. I want to give you the final word. I want to remind folks that we are in that open enrollment phase with the San Diego Unified School District. Open enrollment opened on October the 5th. It will close on November the 16th. Please get your choice application in to the district. We've got information that's scrolling for you on our screen right now that has to do with an upcoming salon next week with Kim Fisk, stage manager for Hamilton, and some of the creatives from the Hamilton group. We're looking forward to that. But also, it is audition time for the 2021-22 school year. So you can find all updated information at SDSCPA and you can certainly reach out to me at rtrujillo@sandy.net. Um, uh, but actually, Mr. Farson just posted how to be an artist, um,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I want to give, as we're wrapping up here, I want to give that huge shout out again to everybody that's out there, all of the teachers that are out there, Linda Libby, Kirsten Gerard Branch, you name it, that are out there that are doing incredible work every single day throughout the county, and then certainly the faculty and staff at SCPA, and a huge shout out to the Friends of SCPA for underwriting this series and being such a force for us in terms of fundraising and making sure that our students and our faculty have everything that they need to be successful. As you take us out, Carson, I want you to tell us, because you're just starting, my friend. You are just starting. Take us out with where does the future for Carson McCalley? What's still burning? What's coming up next? What's that trajectory? What are the goals that are still waiting out there to be accomplished?
Yeah. I think, I'm obviously speaking from a place of privilege that I like just came off of this awesome show and achieved one of my dreams to be on Broadway, and um, so I think I have an ability to do this in a different way. But I think that refocusing on again, like my personal, I feel like I'm a broken record, but like my personal relationship to my art and why I'm doing it, and pulling myself to those projects, I think is something I'm really focusing on. There's this like Japanese philosophy of purpose, like um, in America, we sort of think of goal setting as a sort of like linear, like I want to get here, so how am I going to get there? But there's this concept called ikigai, which is like your purpose is the bud of a flower, and everything that happens in your life is a petal that comes off of this bud of the flower. And for me, I've discovered that a lot of that has to do with community, and that all of the things I love in my life, whether that be being in a show on Broadway, a devised show on Broadway, or playing games with my friends, or coming and talking with my old high school, a lot of that has to do with bringing together community. And so I think discovering that in myself and discovering my personal relationship to what really drives me, I'm able to assess sort of what I want to attach myself to more when projects come in and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to be able to do that.
That's awesome, man. We're looking forward to following the rest of your career. We want you back. We want you to come back and visit us as many times as you want to,
I would be honored.
because I know that our students are going to benefit. I want to give you one real quick chance to just give a shout out to Miss Traeger out there. I know that she played a huge, significant part in your development, and I hope she's watching this evening. So if you'd like to just give her a shout out, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, if she is watching, she knows. Like Miss Traeger is, and for everybody else, I mean, my teacher at SCPA, my drama teacher, changed my life in so many different ways, and was hard on me, and sort of pushed me, but also was kind and giving to me in my arts. And I thought, I just think I would not be where I am without Miss Traeger. And she came to see my show, and we got dinner between the two plays, and that her sort of influence on me, I think, will always be in my heart.
That's a perfect way to wrap us up here. Carson McCalley, thank you so much for spending the time with us this evening. We love you, and we support the heck out of you, and we're just proud as heck of you, man.
Oh, Miss Traeger!
There she is. There she is.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight for the conversation with Mr. Carson McCalley. And look for us next week as we bring out the team from Hamilton, and we start to talk Hamilton stuff. Have a great evening, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Trujillo.